Okay, looks like we are live. Timers going. What's going on, everybody? Triple Crown 24 back today with two gentlemen you might be familiar with. That's because they have previously appeared on this podcast. It's been a minute, but we're going to be doing a little roundtable episode today. Change up the format a little bit with two guests from before. I'll let them introduce themselves here in a minute. One thing that I want to say is that we are powered by StreamYard today. So if you have any need to have a stream like ours today, make sure you go through StreamYard. You see a lot of YouTubers in our community using it. I highly recommend it, and they don't even pay me to say that. So there you have it. So today we're going to be talking about mostly the different ways in which we super collect, but we have a couple of guests joining us, and we're going to do it live as well. So if you guys want to weigh in as we go along, let me know. But let's go left to right here. Introduce yourselves, starting with the guy in the A's hat who collects Mark McGwire, who is located in Texas.
I don't know which way is left to right. Your left or my left?
That'd be you, Oakland A, Eric.
All right, so, Oakland A's 915, Eric.
And Titanic Taters, Eric.
So if you guys have any questions for either of these guys or myself throughout the stream, make sure you leave them in the comments down below. I can show comments on the screen like this. So like this one, are we going to see shiny Big Macs? We might.
Ooh,
we might.
I
only got one card ready, but I got access to mine pretty easily. So
all right, we should see some shine today. Make sure you wear sunglasses at the appropriate time in today's stream. So today's topic is one that Oakland A's Eric kind of suggested to me, and it's something I've actually been thinking about myself lately. It's really interesting that we are super collectors, and one of the things that I hear so often with super collecting is just you just want to get all the cards of your player. And I think that's true to some extent. Like if we see a free McGwire or Cabrera, we're not going to say no. But at the same time, like these cards cost money, and some of these cards that we're buying cost a lot of money, and we don't have the money to buy all of them. So there has to be some kind of prioritizing that goes along with this. What do we want to go after first? What are we specifically looking for? And how do we go about building our collections? Because I think for all of us, it's a little bit different. So just kind of some opening thoughts on that. I'll start with Oakland A's, Eric.
Yeah, great subject, JT. I like what you were talking about there. Kind of the way I personally go about it. I have a set budget of what I'm going to spend for pretty much the month. I kind of try to figure out what I'm going to spend on baseball cards, and so what I'll do weekly or well, not weekly, but daily. I'm checking eBay to see which of the rarer cards on my list that I can afford have shown up that I can realistically get, and kind of go with the most expensive cards first, the rare stuff, because that might be the only chance I get to buy it. And so I kind of prioritize that way of going over getting those cards first. And then if there's money left over, I will go after some of the lower end cards or the base cards. But that's kind of the way I prioritize.
How about you, Titanic Taters? What do you got?
Yeah, I would say we're probably very similar in that regard. I mean, I don't really set like a budget for myself, but I try to keep it under like crazy amounts. But yeah, I look at my stuff and see what's rare out there. Eric will shoot me over some text every now and then saying, "Hey, check this out," and the rarer stuff definitely takes precedent over the lower end stuff, but pretty much rare and then mid tier and then low tier and just keep building.
Yeah, something I'll add to that. What Eric was talking about is because the way I feel is sometimes with the with the lower tier stuff, you almost that's always available. So you can get it at any time. And so that's why it's kind of, we're both trying to go after almost everything. So that's how I prioritize it.
Yeah. Well, I've come to the realization that I'm never going to own every McGwire card that was ever printed. So that's why for me the higher end stuff definitely takes precedent over the lower stuff, because if something pops up and it's a really good deal, or even if it's kind of like borderline good deal, maybe I'm getting ripped off a little bit here. You kind of have to go for it because it just doesn't pop up. We're kind of in a weird stage right now with 90s inserts where a lot of them are starting to show up. Like we've had 3 precious metal gems wires show up in the last month or 2.
Yeah.
So
3 of them have shown up in a month.
Yeah. So it's pretty crazy. I didn't get any of them, but mostly because I had spent money on something else. So
you got that card. If you want to show it, that's a really nice one.
Which one?
The 96. I'm sorry, 97 platinum.
Oh, you know what? Let me go get it. I'll go get it. Hold on.
So those guys are a little bit different than me, and that will be one of our points of discussion here. So they very much like to target some of the higher end cards, and they have that idea that the lower end cards will be available at a later time, which is true on a lot of stuff. Like you're talking about base type of stuff. Yes, that is going to be available pretty much. If you're looking at maybe some certain numbered stuff, maybe not as much. My approach is a little bit different. What I do is I'm always looking for the best deal. And that's probably because my player has, I would say, a larger checklist than theirs. And a lot of it, too, is
for sure.
There's a lot more autographs. Like I just picked up one today, and I bought it because I thought it was a good deal. Now, there are a ton of other autographs I could have gone after, but that one was the best deal at the time. So that's kind of my approach to it, is not necessarily what's the rarest, but what I think is the best price when I'm going to buy it. So
that's really interesting to see that we differ that way.
Yeah.
And I can see it coming. That's awesome.
So we got a question here from Amish Dave Archer, great channel. He would like to know, are there any cards that have slipped from our grasp that we have eventually picked up later on? There are ones that we were.
So that's the one that we were talking about.
Ooh.
Would that be one of those that falls into this category here for you?
That would be the one that he was talking about, where this one pretty much was like, oh, that exhausted my budget for the month.
Yeah. Well, it's numbered to 30, so
yeah,
you had to get that.
I had to. I even got it less than what they were asking for, so that was nice.
Oh,
I think it was because I dropped my name. I dropped Titanic Taters and Baseball Card Junkies TV, and he was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, no problem. Here you go."
Yeah, use your channel's clout to get a good discount on cards, guys.
Yeah. That's really cool. Using that to your advantage. I like that.
Yeah.
So we got this question, Eric. It says, "What are some cards that you've never thought you were going to see again, but were relieved to see them pop up again?" So was there something that got away from you that you were able to get later on?
Oh, that I was able.
Something you missed out on.
One was definitely one.
I know one that I missed out on, but I know something I missed out on, but I haven't been able to get it yet. I can't think of one I missed out on the first time.
I did just miss out. You know what? I guess like I don't really trip about it that much. Like if I win it, I win it. If I don't, I guess I feel like it wasn't meant to be. And
that's good.
You know, unless it's a one of one, it's going to show up eventually again anyway. Like you just or it doesn't, and you never add it to your collection. So, I guess I don't trip out too much about that.
I know I can't think of something that I missed and picked it up. How about you, JP? I can tell you what card I missed out on that I will get, but I'm going to have to wait till this guy over here gets his copy first.
Oh yeah,
I think you know what we're talking about, JT. I know this card's going to come up
everybody
today.
Here knows it.
Yeah, that's going to be that's going to be pricey, more than likely.
Should we all
might be selling some Mike Trout rookie cards or something like that to pay that one off.
Yeah. So I missed it. So I missed it last summer because I was actually getting ready to pay for a flight to Oakland. So That's
I
why I
missed
didn't
one
get it.
when I was at Disneyland 3 years ago.
We're
We're like watching like the fire show or whatever at Disneyland, and I'm like keeping an eye on it, and like I like threw my max bid in with like 5 seconds left, and like it went like 250 above that, like 250 above my max bid. So
yeah, I'm not surprised.
yeah.
So on the subject of this question, a car we're talking about the '97 Gold Embossed Finest Refractor for anyone who doesn't know. So say you both have missed out on this card, for whatever reason it might be at the time. If a car like that were to pop back up, are you more likely to maybe overpay for it than what you would normally pay
Probably.
because you don't know if it's going to show up again, or what's the deal with that?
Probably. Yeah.
Probably. Yeah, I would say I'm gonna step this is one card I'm gonna let Eric go ahead and take, but after that I'll probably end up spending more than he will on that card.
There's the silver embossed.
The silver embossed refractor. I got that one too. Yeah, nice card.
Good one. I think the gold embossed, that's like the only card I need to complete that.
Is it gold embossed?
That whole run of 97 finest. So
Ooh.
Only card.
I'm missing a couple. I don't even have the gold refractor. Actually, the one that's not embossed. I don't have that one yet. I know you have it, Eric.
What are you talking about?
That's it. Yep.
Yeah. All right. Here's a good talking point that we can jump to now. We've got Dustin and Blake here, who has a super collectors group on Facebook. So if you are a super collector watching this and you are not a part of it already, be sure to go check it out. Dustin can get you the info on that. You can go over to his channel and look at that. So he is talking about getting the one. He's a Kirby Puckett super collector. For those of you who are not familiar with Dustin, he wants to get to 1,000 first and then try to go after the higher end cards. Was there a point in time where you guys hit maybe a certain number, or after a certain amount of time, where you actually said, hey, I'm going to start going after this higher end stuff now? Because when I hit 2,000, that started to happen for me. What about you guys?
I'll go with this one because I know the exact.
You and I are gonna have the same answer for this.
Basically, when it's because of things that were going on in my life, currently not doing another hobby that I had money tied up into, I just got to the point in my life where I was actually able to afford some of the cards that I'm going after now. So for a really, really long time, all I collected was base McGwires, and that was my goal for a very long time. I actually didn't think I was going to own a lot of the cards that I do now. So I was just trying to my checklist was like, get every base card McGwire. And then about 3 or 4 years ago, I bought a high-end card. It was the 92 Donruss Elite. And it was a card that I had wanted for a long time. And so I bought that and kind of started something there where started a little another hobby of mine, going after the higher end stuff.
92 Donruss Elite.
That's kind of the card that started it for me, where I stepped into the realm of stepping my game up.
You can't go back once you do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I think I would agree. A lot of it was budget, right? Like, so if the base cards are all that are in your budget, or like the lower end inserts, mid end inserts, then yeah, that's what you're going to go with. Personally, though, I would say I would spend less on base. If I did it all over again, I would spend less money on base and more money on the higher end stuff, because the higher end stuff just never comes up. So
it's continuing to rise and go higher and higher. We're definitely seeing that.
Yeah, and specifically with like Kirby Puckett. Now I know he's shown a Kirby Puckett autograph or two on the Super Collectors page, so he's definitely picking up some high end stuff. But like, he doesn't have modern autographs. He doesn't have a lot of options for that.
Yeah, poor dude. Because you know what? Do you remember what McGwire autographs used to go for before he signed this deal with Topps in 2014?
Like $400.
They were that on the low end.
Yeah,
on the low end, they were freaking McGwire. that's why I didn't have a certified autograph for a very long time, because in the early 2000s, they were, he had 03 and 04, and man, that, like on the low end, it was a $400 card you were going to pay for. So, that's what.
Not cheap.
So I can imagine with Kirby Puckett not being alive and he's not signing, modern product, I'm sure Puckett autos are pretty pricey.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna run you a couple $100 if you want a Puckett auto, and that's probably for the lower end ones.
Okay.
For that question, well, not really as much of a question, as more as it was a statement. But on that subject, if you're someone who's just starting out with player collecting, or you're getting into it, and you want to possibly super collect, I definitely think that Dustin's strategy, and I'll put it back up on the board here, getting to that 1,000 mark first, that's a good way. You want to make sure that you're able to like sample the products, because the last thing you want to do is invest a lot of money into these higher end cards that maybe you don't have that much attachment to a year down the line. You want to make sure that you're committing to something that is worthwhile for you. So I think that's a really great way to look at it. It's definitely something that I looked at for sure. As I've kind of every 1,000, I'd like to say I kind of go after some higher end stuff, but I really don't have a choice, because you run out of base cards eventually.
Yeah, so, I was going to say it starts to get tougher and tougher and tougher to find I'm kind of at that point where base cards are, I do find them here and there, but they're not as easy to find as they used to be.
Kind of an extension to that, what you said, JT, about how like buying cards you don't have attachment to. When you're like Eric and I, and you've been collecting since like one player, Mark McGwire, since 1987, 1988, or that was your favorite player, or you were even collecting back then, there's a lot of cards that were coming out in 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, and on that were like dream cards. So these were cards that we were like, as kids, we're never going to be able to have these cards. And now that we're adults, we do have that sentimental attachment to these 90s inserts, because they were so hard to find. Like even a card that was numbered to 250 in like 1995 was like that was one per case,
Yeah.
So,
and they made a lot more product back then too. So
yeah, yeah. So there is that attachment where if you didn't collect in the 90s, there's you don't have that, I need to get this like 2000 essential credentials, whatever, or this 1997 finest gold embossed refractor. You just don't have that attachment to it. It's like, yeah, they may look cool, but maybe you don't quite understand what it is, or like you said, it's just not something that you have an attachment to. So getting that base and like just building that collection is maybe more of a drive than going after the higher end cards.
Well said. I completely agree with that. I think that sums it up well. Guys, there's a lot of questions that are coming in, so if I don't get to you right away, we'll work through them here as we go along. So just for anybody who's watching, if I don't get to you right away, that's why. I think this is a good question to kind of move to next is Bean's Ball Card Blog, great channel as well, very, very interactive channel, big in the community. Kind of along those lines, do you guys set goals for yourself? So is it something where you're trying to pick up a certain card?
We're both
I feel there's going to be some different answers on this one. We'll start with Oakland A's, Eric.
Yeah, that's actually something I really wanted to talk about, because I don't think everybody has to do it, but for me personally, it helps the way I collect, because around, I don't know, it was a few years ago, 15, 16, when a lot of the McGwire was being introduced into the modern products, I was trying to chase a lot of that stuff too. And I was still going after the stuff from the 80s and 90s, plus I was adding the modern stuff, and I felt like very overwhelmed. And it got to the point where it was just like, where is this going to end? Where does, I'm buying every single card I see on eBay. Whatever I see first is I'm trying to get it, and it was just overwhelming. It was too much. So at that point in my life, I made a decision that I was going to really concentrate on trying to do the playing years. And not only that, but I set a realistic goal where I'm going to try and collect everything numbered 25 and above. Less than 25, they're a little out of my budget. A lot of them I've never seen before. And so I try and stick with that. I don't, and this is not to say that it's strict and I won't go outside of my own goals, because I will pick up modern McGwires if I like the way they look. Some of the silver pack stuff is really nice looking. I love those. So I will pick them up, but they're not part of my goal list. So that I hope that answers that question.
I think your counterpart there has a different answer towards this question.
Actually, I 100% agree with Eric on that whole process. I guess I'm going to interpret this a little bit differently. I'm going to look at what Eric says, like setting like a limitation for yourself, right? So you know that if something numbered under 25 comes up, maybe it's out of your price range, you might check it out, but it's not something that you're necessarily driven to add to your collection. I have a similar thing. I really focus on the playing years, and then I also focus more on his ace stuff versus his cardinal stuff, right?
Yeah.
Though I do pick up the cardinal stuff when something cool comes up. I don't buy a lot of like the modern stuff. I buy is mostly going to be autographs. And like cool patches and stuff like that. But the way I'm interpreting goals is if I'm thinking he's asking, like, do you set like a goal to say, like, I want to hit 500 by this day, I want to hit 1,000 by this date, or at the end of the year, I want to have 2,000 such and such players cards.
Okay, you
that.
Okay, so, I interpreted it as because my ultimate goal is to try and pick up all of the playing days cards numbered from above 25. So that is my goal.
Yeah, that's a good goal. I don't have a goal really. My only goal is to buy the 97 finest golden refractor. But I don't look at it as like I have to strive to keep adding cards to my collection to have so many cards of a person. So, but definitely my goal would be within realistic like or parameters is adding all the A's playing days McGwire cards.
Mm-hmm.
I probably fall somewhere in between the two of you. My goals are more so manufactured. So it's like, for example, the 2018 Bowman Chrome Rainbow. I'm missing the red refractor. So a goal of mine is to pick up that red refractor. But that would not have been a goal if I had not acquired the super refractor and then gone out and completed the rest of it. So it's kind of a goal that has set itself along the lines. But as we already talked about in terms of like hitting a certain number by a certain date, I have the whole 2K by 2020 thing. I'm doing the chasing 3,000 thing now. It's a goal. It's something to work towards, but it's not necessarily a strict regimen where it's life or death if I don't get it. It's a hobby. It's fun. So I try to
something to help you keep focused if you have a goal.
It's kind of like how Nate Tops 85401 did the road to 5K, right? It's like you're documenting the cards that you're using to get you to that number, but that number is more of just kind of an outside, like, man, it'd be really cool to get to 3,000 cards, but it's not like I'm just going to start buying everything I see just so I can get to 3,000.
Right. I appreciate it, Ken. The shout out there for order here on some of these questions, guys, just because I want to make sure that we link them together. So there's a lot of cards out there for us to chase down, and the first thing that we have to do is kind of figure out what cards are out there. So this is a good friend of mine and yours here, Stealing Second. Where do you guys find a count of all the cards produced for a specific player? So I guess where are you guys finding your checklist where you're determining where you want to go out and get cards from?
2 places, typically. Beckett and Trading Card Database. Both are not 100% complete. You'll find like a lot of stuff that this is for guys that played in the 80s, right? Because there are a lot of off-brand, like not trademark cards, like the Broder stuff from the 80s that like had 3 or 4 different variations, or like the Mother's Cookies cards. Like some of that stuff won't show up on Beckett, but it will show up on Trading Card Database. But at the same time, some of the cards that are not on Trading Card Database will be on Beckett. So there's also that, what is it, the baseball card that Nate shows every now and then. It's like the baseball card encyclopedia or something like that.
Yep.
Which I don't have. But that's a good one too, just to like see like, oh, my player would have been in this time period. But if you're doing modern cards, I think Beckett or Trading Card Database are equally as good.
Yeah, I think Beckett's a little more up to date on their modern players, because all of McGwire's modern cards are on there. Every parallel is on Beckett. But yeah, so like exactly what Eric was talking about, because we both use both. But the one thing I like about Beckett is that you can kind of make your own checklist. And so not too long ago, I was able to take all of the cards I wanted every year from McGwire and put them into one, what do they call it? The organize.
Yeah.
And so I was able to make my own checklist. So that's pretty cool that way. Trading card database, you can't do that. You're gonna have to. You're gonna have all the 1-of-1s on there, everything numbered less than 25. I mean, it's so it's a lot to look through. However, that one's free, so we can't really ever complain about that checklist.
You can connect with other collectors and see that, like, if you friend them, you can see their collections on Trading Card Database. So like if I find a card that, or if I end up finding a double or whatever, I can look up on Eric's page and be like, oh, he doesn't have this card, and be like, hey, I'm going to send this over to you or whatever. So that is one of the cool things about Trading Card Database that Beckett doesn't have, is that you are able to see friends' checklists and everything. So it's kind of cool.
What a perfect segue into this question, because I have an idea. I know what the answer is going to be for you guys here. It's a little different for me, coming from a very fine gentleman, Bowman 53. He wants to know, how many other super collectors are we interacting with online or elsewhere, and how much trading is going on? So you guys brought up Trading Card Database, being able to kind of look at those checklists there. How much do you guys rely on fellow McGwire collectors to kind of figure things out, or to help build each other's collections?
Not a whole lot, to be totally honest. A lot of, if we have duplicates, I mean, we're all pretty much willing to pretty much give them to each other. But when you're talking about, I mean, the rare cards, a lot of us are going after the same ones. So we got to work together, or we're going to be, doing some bidding wars. So both happen.
Unfortunately, that's just like that's just collecting. That's the hazard of collecting, is that other people do it too. So, but I mean, McGwire, I mean, we have like that McGwire group, we have like 10 or 15 members in there now, something like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that's a pretty strong interaction with specifically super collectors. There's going to be guys out there that either don't do Facebook or social media and have huge collections. But we try to do our best as far as like, hey, we just saw this card pop up, I'm really pushing to go for it. Can you not bid me up type situation? But somebody else is like, hey, I really want to add that to my collection too. I mean, it's whoever bids the most is going to get it. So
but I mean, I guess going back to the original part of the question of how much trading is going on, I'd like to think there's a close knit friendship among us, and we'll pretty much, I mean, the base cards will pretty much just kind of give to each other. So that's pretty nice.
Like, I have a few people I'll text. I'll be like, hey, do you need these cards? Like I've even done it. I've even sent JT a text. Hey, do you need these Miguel?
Yeah,
Cabrera's?
he's going to give me a couple of cards. It's great.
Yeah.
I got a couple for him.
Yeah, I definitely. I mean, I've got like 2 Mark McGwires for Oakland A's, Eric, back there that I'm sending him.
You're always looking out for me.
Yeah,
You're always.
I'm texting him every week to kind of figure out, like, hey, you guys got these or not? Like, I got a Pujols that I got to send to Titanic Taters and ask him if he's got it here after the stream.
I wish I had the kind of access you do to that many baseball cards.
I do have
a lot, so.
Right, I do get to come across a lot of cards.
I would probably be doing more spending than selling. So.
Yeah, sometimes it's like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't sell McGwires a lot just because of Eric and a couple of other collectors that are in the group. Because I kind of feel like if I have something that I know like someone would want, I'd just rather send it off to them and help them build their collection versus having them go on eBay or me posting on there like, hey, $10 for this McGwire shipped or whatever. Because you do develop kind of a friendship and a comradeship, I guess, with other collectors, and it's nice to be able to just be like, here you go, don't even trip about it. So
yeah, I definitely think that the trading, from what I've experienced with me, I do more trading, I would say, or just sending out care packages to super collectors of different players. In terms of the Cabrera super collectors out there, in my experience, there's, like these guys said, there's some rare cards that we're all going after, and there's a few select guys who only go after the high-end stuff. So they enter the market when I'm going after one of those. Also, with these guys as well, there's kind of a tier of these guys who only go after high-end, people who are just kind of starting out or are spread way too thin in terms of, like, they're everywhere in the hobby, so they can't really collect that much. I'm kind of somewhere in between here. I'm really focused on it, but I'm not quite where I can go after every single big card. But I'm not. I mean, I can get more than just the base as well. So there's a pretty big gap
That's
there.
a pretty good place to be in.
Oh, hey, by the way, I did do it. I ended up doing it anyway. So.
That's funny.
I knew you were going to do it.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Let's see if there's a question that you guys are.
I can't see the questions until you post them. So.
Okay.
I can't see them until you post them. So
Nate just brought up a good point too. Creating a group, and you guys have a McGwire group on Facebook, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Nate's Bonds group was kind of the inspiration for that, and I know a lot of those guys have known each other for a lot longer, and I know they've helped each other out for sure, with some big cards. So I'm sure we've got our group going in that direction.
Yeah, hopefully. Cross our fingers. But I'd rather. Yeah, hopefully it becomes a source of like helping everybody, grow collections. And when something cool pops up that maybe we don't know about, but somebody else does.
There was something I sent somebody else in the group the other day because I knew I had it. I knew you had it already, so I sent a text to somebody else letting them know, hey, this is a pretty tough card. You might want to pick it up.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think that ties in well to here, because you guys mentioned this earlier with how you kind of go about your, like, what types of cards you like to go after. So, for example, Titanic Taters, Eric, you don't go after as many of the Cardinals cards. I mean, there are exceptions to that, of course, like a Crusade. You're going to go after that, but
yeah. So I'd go, like, if I was going to go from most important to least important, it'd be A's playing days, then Cardinals playing days, then modern A's, modern Cardinals is kind of how mine would be as far as importance. And Eric would be playing days.
Okay. So I guess in terms of importance to me would be pretty much playing days, and I don't chase a whole lot of modern. So let's just go with.
I mean, I'll throw out there that I do like the green, gold, and black silver pack refractors because they look so cool when he's in an A's uniform. You know, probably if I was chasing the Cardinals, I'd go like for black and red. Or something.
Yeah, they look really good. Yep.
Yeah, that's I mean, I think we kind of touched on this in the last question where I said there's guys who only do the high end stuff, and there's guys who maybe they can't afford to do the high end stuff, so they mostly stick to the base and like the lower end inserts and parallels. Just there's a lot of different types of collectors out there. Just kind of has to do with question that I'll jump to here in a second. How many different PCs do you have? How no names are going to be called out here in this video, but some of us have more PCs. And then you know what's your budget? How much time do you have to put into it? How many cards does your player have on the checklist? I mean, there's a big difference if you're collecting the guy who played 5 years in the big league compared to a Hall of Famer.
I'll take this first because my answer is going to be a little bit shorter. But basically, the way my other PCs is some of the modern guys. I got a smaller PC of Ricky Henderson. I was collecting Eric Chavez a lot while he was playing, but I don't. Taters as well.
It's not quite that right.
For me, it's McGwire will always take priority over everybody. But I think it's great to have the side PCs because even, believe it or not, there's some times where I don't really feel like picking up just McGwires. And I, really liked collecting Matt Olson and Chapman in the past few years. And so to keep me from sometimes I'll get a little burnt out. So it's nice to have those side PCs to because you still want to pick up cards, you still want to collect. But I know JT, there's a few times where you've shown some more modern cards that I've actually checked. I'm like, I know McGwire's not in the set, so I'll go to see if Simeon or Olsen are in the set.
Yeah,
that is a great point because there's a lot of sets out there that you see that are really cool, and you're like, oh man, I wish I had a player in that. Like some of the '90s insert sets. Unfortunately for me as a Tigers fan, like the most interesting player for me would be like Travis Fryman. That's just I'm not putting my money into that.
Did Dean Palmer play for the Tigers at some point too?
He did. He is on the there was this weird time in the late '90s and early 2000s where we had like Dean Palmer, Hideo Nomo, Juan Gonzalez for like a year each.
Okay, I remember Juan Gonzalez. Nomo, I don't remember him being on the Tigers, man. Wow,
it was very, very brief. It was a very weird time where there were some interesting names coming over. So, what about you, Titanic Taters? Like, how much of your PC is? We'll go with McGwire and Pujols since those are your main guys.
So I'd say McGwire is probably, well, not probably, he is like my main focus. So McGwire is going to win out of any other player. Like if the same card popped up for like 2 or 3 different players, I'd be focusing on the McGwire. But like McGwire's in there, Pujols, he's not as high priority because there's just so many cards of his that I really kind of just try to focus on like autographs and like cool patches, cool refractors, like low numbered refractors. But then I have guys like Jason Giambi, Larry Walker, Will Clark. Like there's a bunch of other guys that I do side PC. Jose Canseco, Ricky Henderson. There's a lot of players that I side PC. And again, those are like more like, okay, I'm kind of bored going after McGwire stuff right now, or maybe nothing good is popping up for McGwire, so I'll start focusing on some of the other stuff. And they're also nice to have too. An extension of that is, maybe I'll never be able to own the McGwire version of a card, right? Because it just will be out of my price range. So that's why I'll have, the side PC.
Giambi's going to be affordable in those sets.
Yep. Larry Walker is getting less affordable, but he was pretty affordable up until about a month ago.
Right.
The exact same cards. So, I think it's good to have side PCs just so you can, experience owning that card of one of your other favorite players that maybe you can't afford for your main guy. Not most of us, most of us probably don't have the capacity to be like, I'm just going to save, $300 a month to put in this account in case select gold, 96 select gold or whatever pops up. So that's kind of cool to have those PCs, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I mean, you can get these as you just mentioned, Eric, examples of these really cool cards. Like, for example, Canadian Cards, who actually asked this question here. He collects the T206 cards, and I'm sure he would love. Well, I don't know. Maybe he'd like to have a Wagner if he could swing one, maybe just as a throw into another deal. But I mean,
sell the home, you sell your house, you can have it.
Right. Maybe, maybe at some point he'll toss it into like a dollar stack or something. But he would like to add a lot of these cards to this collection. Like, he shows me these, and they're beautiful cards. They're fun examples of T206s. And I think I know Pepino Man has said this. Nate maybe has said this too, but you should have a 52 tops card in your collection. Like, if your team is in 52 tops, like, go out and get an example of that card, because it's cool to have a 52 tops card. It's a classic design. It's important in the history of baseball cards too. So I definitely agree with you guys with the whole side PC. It's a good way to kind of dip your toes in the sets, whether it's because you can't afford your player in that specific set, or your player is not in that set and you want to get a card from it. Get someone who's cheap, and you get a shiny card.
The A's weren't in Oakland in 1952, so I don't have to worry about it too much. Maybe not Philadelphia; they're probably in Kansas City in '52, right?
No, they were still
Philly, I think.
So would there be Jimmy Fox in that year, or no? Or would he have been retired by then?
He was gone by then.
Yeah, he ended with Boston though, didn't he?
I don't know.
What is Boston? Boston's always getting our players. It's messed up, man. Boston.
He asked, what percentage of your collection is strictly your favorite player, and are the others? Oh, I'm going to say
like 90% for you.
No, I got a lot of I got a lot of cards. I don't know. I don't show everything on YouTube, but I would say probably half my collection is McGwire. Half my PC is McGwire, and the other half is other A's players now.
Yeah, mine's a lower percentage. Mine's
I know it is.
Yeah, it's probably like in the 15 to 20% of my collection is Mark McGwire cards.
So I'm probably right around that 50% mark too, but that's only because of the Tigers team set. That's 2,000 PC cards, and I have 2,000 Cabrera cards, so that's about split.
There you go.
There you go.
There you go.
Let's see. Let me think if there's. Do you guys have anything you wanted to discuss we haven't talked about yet? While I try to find some more questions here.
We could talk about the way I set my checklist, and as far as because something I saw on eBay the other day, and I was absolutely shocked. I don't know if you guys saw I told you about it. The Jeter 98 Crusade sold, a raw copy sold for it was like $13,000.
The red.
Yeah, the red. Yeah, numbered to 25. And so I was going to talk about having. So if you were luckily McGwire falls right within my budget that I'm able to afford the cards pretty much numbered from 25 and up. Below that, they start to get a little more than I want to spend. So I guess if you were to choose a player like a Ken Griffey Jr., a Mike Trout, a Derek Jeter, just know that if you're going to really want to try and master collect them and try and get all of the cards, you better get ready to have some deep pockets, because some of those cards are going to get out of your range. So that's why I set a goal, and what my personal checklist is about what I'm going after is realistic.
Could you even get like a regular base, like just a 2015 Topps Mike Trout for like less than $5? Like, is it?
I don't know.
Yeah,
Ask Casey.
I look through Beckett, and like every card I have is like 10, 10, 10, 20, 30, 50, 400. You know, it's like there's
For a base card, there's that much, huh?
Well, I mean, the 2011 Topps Update rookie card.
Well,
card,
I know what I know what those go for. So
but like just a
$1,500 in a 10 today at the show.
How much?
$1,500 for a PSA 10 today at the show.
That surprises me that it was so low. I know, I'm serious, because the raw is selling for $400 to $500.
Yeah, it's.
So
it was just like 1,000 a few weeks ago. It feels, and now it's
that low surprises me. I would have expected it to be more in the $3,000 to $5,000 range for a PSA 10.
It might get there one day. You don't know.
We both know what that mirror, the '96 mirror gold McGwire went for a few months ago. That went for the PSA 10. It went for $1,500 as well.
Yeah, but that's. I mean, I hate to say it. That's Mark McGwire, not Mike Trout. So,
and from a '96 mirror gold, that had a print run of 30. So there's not a whole. There's not. We know where at least one copy is.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna reframe the question we had earlier, kind of on topic with this, about what is your biggest frustration in general as a super collector, and kind of, I guess, with the topic of Trout coming up here. We luckily collect players that from like our era are not the big player to collect. So you guys, you're not paying Griffey Jeter prices for McGwire cards. I'm not paying Trout prices for Cabrera cards. So I would think that eases some of the frustrations, but how do you even begin to super collect like a Griffey, a Trout when you're playing in a big sea with a lot of big fish in there?
I'll tell you what, JT, you just joined that '90s group, and you will see some of those Peter cards, some of those Griffies that I know what McGwire goes for, and when they're showing those players, I'm just like, oh, I'm in awe. I can't believe those guys collect.
Like, what do you do for a living? Are you like
yeah, exactly.
Are you selling blue meth for a living? Come on. But yeah, I mean, I'd say probably my biggest frustration as a super collector is that the '90s inserts have become so much more popular. Like the '90s, early 2000s, so much more popular. People are trying to build those sets now.
That's true.
So
that's driving the price up.
Yeah,
a lot of people our age are starting to collect the players that they were their favorite players growing up from the '90s, and so the prices on the '90s cards at least are really climbing.
Yeah, like I feel like I'm lucky to have the cards that I have been able to get, because there is so much competition out there. Oh yeah, I've definitely seen just in the past few years what I paid for something at maybe 17 or 18, and I see what they recently sold for, and wow. Like I'm glad I got my PSA 9 Topps Tiffany McGwire from 1985, like 5 years ago, because I think I paid like $100 for it. Oh yeah. No, that's almost a $400 card now. It's like so much more. If I had waited and been like, no, I'm going to wait and see if it goes down, that would have been the wrong decision at that point in time. Yeah. So I guess that kind of goes to one of the questions earlier. It's like, if you see something and you know it's rare, like it's almost like worth the price that it's like the price for admission, you know? Sometimes you just got to pull the trigger. Sometimes you just got to pull the trigger. You got to sometimes almost be willing to overpay maybe at the moment, because you might not see that card for that price again. Yeah. Well, at the moment, you might think you're paying too much, but a lot of it will keep going up. And I think also, us all having YouTube channels and Facebook groups talking about the cards that we really want to add to our collection, that's probably not helping some of these buy it now prices that might be popping up. Because we're making it.
I'm not really talking about cards I'm looking for anymore.
I don't really do it either. I mean, everybody knows the one card that I'm looking for, but
we can't really do anything about that one.
That one's just going to be whatever it is. But I think as part of us being so public about our collections and what we're chasing and what we're looking for, it has made it difficult to find things that are a good value.
We might have a small fraction to do with that for sure. But I mean, there's the group, there's YouTube, there's forums, and these cards are definitely climbing.
Well, let me ask you this with this too, is that, okay, so we can influence and we can remind people about these cards or introduce them. What about tops? Because if you look at products like Finest, for example, I just picked up a A-Rod the Man insert, which is coming back in this year's Finest.
Did you get the refractor or the
regular version? I wish I had the refractor because that would be big money. So there's that card. There's a lot of Finest insert sets from the past decade or so have been inspired off of 90s Finest cards, and archives, as they run out of ideas and Heritage uses some of the older ones. You look at archives, there's a lot of 90s stuff that's resurfacing there, like the Desert Shield they brought back, I think in 2016 when they did the 91.
Yeah.
So it's
I didn't realize they brought the Desert Shields back. I missed that.
But is that influencing people? Is them seeing these new players on these old cards and then going out and trying to find the originals?
Kind of being reminded, maybe. I think that's a possibility when they sit there and go, oh, yeah. And then they start thinking, well, I got the money to buy that now, that card that I always wanted when I was a kid. Because, I mean, that's kind of what I'm doing. Yeah. I'm kind of going after a lot of the cards that I couldn't afford or I never even saw. They were just myths, back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
So
let me get my train of thought on this one here. So I really like that they're bringing back the old designs. I hope they're smart about it and they keep it with modern players and they don't start putting like the older players on them. Because I think that can confuse and this is just from a collector standpoint and not wanting people to pay for something that they think they're getting, but they're not.
You made a good point about that, Eric. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but somebody.
This is why I don't talk to this guy.
You know what? I got excited about a subject you were talking because one time I was talking about one of my '98 Crusades, which is those are really tough cards to come by, and this guy he was like, oh yeah, he's like, I got a few of those, but he was talking about the newer Crusades, which aren't really like that. They're not anywhere near as pricey. So, so it's to not confuse people. Yeah, I see what you were saying there, Eric.
Yeah, because like, for example, like when they did that reprint of the 2011 Topps Update Mike Trout, like there were card shops that had that in their thing, their display, like repping it as the legit 2011 Topps Update. Like you
That's not cool.
If you search 2011 Topps Update Mike Trout on eBay, like 90% of what you see is going to be these stupid reprints. And there's actually no
market for one.
Yeah. So, well, neither am I, but I'm just saying that's kind of like the thing that I want to make sure and hope that they don't do is start
make the same exact card,
the exact same card that looks the same. Yeah. So player collectors end up getting ripped off because it's not the real card.
They got to be definitely careful with that. I think the vintage, it's easier because it's just a different stock. You can tell, but they did it with the cards your mom threw out back.
Yeah.
And I had someone one time approach me, for example. That was the insert set that was done in 2010 cards. One of the cards in the set was the 2006 Alex Gordon card that never should have been. Sorry for the clock in the background. I knew it was going to make an appearance at some point.
Yeah, they made a rookie card before. his rookie card before they were supposed to, before he played in a big league game.
Right. So the thing with that too is that it's printed exactly the same, and there's the cards your mom threw out on the back. But then they actually have a version where it has the original back on it, and a lot of times they say reprints. But I had someone approach me one time. This card doesn't say reprint on the back. It is the only way that you would know that it is that card is if you check the copyright date at the bottom, which is written in very, very, very small
That's
font.
not cool. That's not cool if they do that. I don't agree with that. Yeah.
I don't either. So that's the difference between a $2 card and a $500 card because that Gordon is super rare. So that's and then like with the in 2020 tops, you have the 35th anniversary with the 85 design. So McGwire, they can't use the USA uniform, but I don't know if I necessarily want them to recreate that card from the original 85 set in this new one, even though it has a stamp on it, because I mean, now you're getting to the point now where those cards, unless you see it in person, you might not be able to know the difference.
They did that in 01 already. Actually, they already did it. So it'd be, you don't want to see it again.
Yeah. Right. They just did it in the Chrome though. They didn't have a paper version of it.
No, there was a paper, a Chrome, and then the refractor.
It looks totally different. It's just like it's on a glossy, like it actually does have the copyright on the back.
I mean you would, but I guess I was making more of the like just trying to say that they already did it. Let's not do it again.
Yeah.
So it was nice to see that they did the 85 set with him in an A's uniform. So
yeah.
What's up to everybody who's jumping in? This will be archived, so you can go back and rewatch it if you'd like to at a later time. We are going to wrap it up here. Any final thoughts from these two gentlemen here before we close it out?
Really quick.
It goes by fast.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Hey man, like my thought is like, as far as super collecting goes, is like don't base it on like a number. Like if you want to base it on like high-end cards, if you want to base it on only jersey numbered cards or whatever, like let your super collection be what you want it to be. Like don't let other people necessarily influence you in like a negative way and like start telling you, oh, all that base is, you know, not worth anything. It's not worth collecting. It's junk. So you have
I collected that way for a long time, man.
We all collected that way when we were kids. We couldn't afford $500 cards when we were kids, right? Or $300, $20 cards, like that was out of the price range. But you know, be solid and happy in your collection, and collect what you want. Collect what makes you feel good about your collection.
Definitely, Eric. And I'll just add on to that where I'm going to say, you know, it's actually those back pages told me this once. He said it's not a sprint. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And he's totally right about that, because you know, you just you don't have to be in a hurry to get to a certain number. I honestly don't know exactly how many I have right now, but I mean that's not super important to me. So it's just I'm just having a lot of fun with it. And so however, as long as I'm collecting and getting lots of Big Macs, I'm happy. So,
and Chris Davis is, and Matt Olson.
From time to time I get those guys too. I had, you know what, all winter I said I was gonna start picking up more. Yeah, I've picked up one all winter. I've been super focused with McGwire, and it's, you know what, there's nothing wrong with it. I haven't really been picking up any players, but I kind of feel like I should take advantage of this, because I know I'm not going to feel this way the entire year. So
yeah, and he's a good one to start picking up too, because if he he's like on the radar now for a lot of collectors or investors. Yeah, so
well, we'll see.
He has another decent year. Like those may be out of the range you want to pay for him. So
I know, right? This is true. Yeah, but I'll never regret collecting. I'll never
collectors. You heard the word.
Yeah,
there you go.
Oakland A 915 called it.
All right, guys. I want to thank both Titanic Taters and Oakland A's at 915
Thank you.
very much for joining us today. Guess what? They have channels of their own. So if you liked hearing them talk about their super collections or super collecting in general, they have a lot of content that you can go watch right now because this video is about to end. I'll leave links to their channels down below once this is up in archive. It'll probably be about an hour from now. But if you have any questions for these gentlemen too, they'll definitely be checking them out in the comments, or you can go over to their channels and ask them. They're more than happy to answer any questions we didn't get to them today. If you guys have any suggestions for who you'd like to see on the podcast in the future, there's a certain Barry Bonds collector in the chat today that will definitely be a guest at some point down the road.
Oh yeah,
down the
good friend Nato
road
for sure.
Yeah. So thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, we'll see you later. Have a good one.
See you later, JT.
See you later.